Welcome, you guys. Thanks for joining me today. I'm so excited to talk to you guys about everything you've ever wanted to know about ideal franchisees. This is a question I get a lot of what really makes people successful or not successful in a franchise. So I'm going to share a couple secrets with you about that today from my many, many years in franchising. So I'm Melissa Lewis. I have been a franchise consultant for 21 years now. I started my career working for a small franchise, and we had a really exciting business model and product or service. And a lot of the franchisees that came to us, they were very excited about it. It was Hawaiian, it was smoothies and coffees, but sometimes they wouldn't have done as much research on the business model than they were excited about the product or service. And that's where I saw a lot of people, unfortunately, make mistakes and it not be the ideal business for them. So fast forward, that's why I became a franchise consultant about 21 years ago. I wanted to help more people know how to research franchises, to really look at them with an investor mindset and not just a consumer mindset, and be able to really find the business of their goals and their dreams. So why is franchising on the rise? Now, if you have been, people reached out to you recently about franchising, or you start to see these companies growing, there's a lot of things of making it the perfect storm for franchises right now. And we all know that AI has really started to disrupt a lot of industries and unfortunately take over some jobs. So sometimes people are at a place that maybe it's not today or maybe it's in the future that they're starting to think through, is the longevity of my industry and my career going to be there, or should I have some additional security? Right? So that kind of brings in your corporate uncertainty as well. And sometimes people are just sick and tired of corporate America or working for the man, or they've gone through a few restructurings and layoffs that they just don't want to do it again. And the last one is people are looking for other ways of investing their money. They want to diversify. They don't want all their eggs in one basket. So they want to diversify their portfolio. Franchising, in my opinion, can be a fantastic way not only for cash flow, for tax deductions, but also to build equity over time. Okay, who makes a great franchise owner? So I have a few slides on this because that's really what we're talking about today. But at the basis, there are two main roles of the owner. And the first one is somebody who is involved day to day, full time from the first day in that business. So they leave their job, they start the business, they build this over time, and then over time, then they start to put the team involved and start to step back. So that is your full-time owner-operator. The second one I call more of a manager-run model. Now, this does take a unique franchise. Not every franchise allows this type of ownership. And it takes a unique person, because this is the person who says, I have a job and I'm content. Maybe they don't want to be there for 10 or 15 more years, but right now they're content in their work. They want to start to build something on the side because it's too much risk for them to leave the salary that they're at to start a business day to day and run it full time. Now, this person needs to have some leadership skills and time flexibility, right? So that they can put in maybe 20 hours a week into the business, working on managing that manager and building the business over time. Then they can leave their job when they start to see that income diversification and being able to build that up. So why do people get excited about franchises? What are they trying to accomplish, or what are they trying to leave? So as I talked about earlier, being tired of corporate unpredictability, the uncertainty in the world right now, that is probably the number one driver for so many people, that they don't want to deal with that uncertainty anymore. A lot of times people want to get their hands dirty and build a business. Maybe they've always dreamed of business ownership. And this is a way to do that without having to build it completely from scratch through a franchise. They're frustrated with golden handcuffs. I hear this a lot. People are in great positions. They're very thankful for where they're at in their career, but they're tired of it. They work a lot. They travel a lot. They don't see their family, and they want some more flexibility and control and independence. Multiple income streams, right? Having everything in one place and all your eggs in one basket, that creates uncertainty for people. So when they're able to spread that risk across and know that they can build up income besides their salary, that gives a lot of security and safety and stability. and wondering if there's more. I gotta say, this is a key to a lot of people. They reach this part of corporate America and they say, is this all there is? I want something with more purpose, or I want to be able to show my family that there's more than one way out there in the world. You don't have to just go and get a job and work and retire. There's different ways. So a lot of people I work with are at this point of just saying, is there a way for me to feel that I can give back or build equity or get my family involved? There's so many different parts, but they get to a point just wondering, is there more out there for me? Yes. Yes, there is. Okay. So soft skill of franchisees, successful franchisees, excuse me. Now, this is something I was thinking about the other day. And as a franchise consultant, I can see where sometimes people will have some struggles in a franchise, or that the franchisor may worry about them being successful. So what we've noticed, because great franchise companies aren't just selling franchises to anybody, they're incredibly selective with the people that they bring in. One, that's going to maintain their culture. They're going to make sure that they bring the best people on to really build these great businesses and to create a wonderful culture of franchisees. Because if you bring the wrong people in, that really brings one bad apple can bring down a bunch. So they are very selective. So the number one is they have a why. They have a goal. They have a vision. They have something they're working towards. This can be hard sometimes for people. This has been hard for me at certain times in my career, where you don't know why you're working, or you don't know what you're working towards. And knowing where you want to get to and why that's important to you is important, because one, it's going to help you to find the right franchise, right? This is where I want to get to. Can this franchise get me there? But two, it's also going to keep you sturdy. You're going to go through times in the research process that maybe you get a little nervous and scared, but your why is going to continue to move you forward to finding the right thing. And the third one is that as you move forward in your franchise, once again, you want to know where you're going. Great franchisors are going to ask you about your goals. Where do you want to get to? And then they're going to help you to put the business plans together to get you there, right? Because people want to go different places, and different franchises will take people different places. So knowing your vision and your goals is incredibly important. They have a positive attitude and surround themselves with like-minded people. Once again, now this is going back to one bad apple bringing down a bunch, right? Franchisees tend to be positive thinking people. They're always thinking of what's the next level I can get to, right? How can I build something more for myself and my family? And you'll find when you get in franchising, these are the kind of people. They're positive, they're encouraging, they're helping, and really that's what creates great cultures in franchisees, in franchise companies. They focus on gratitude and enjoy helping others. That is the culture of franchising. And you will see that even when you go through your research process, franchisees are willing and able and want to talk to to potential franchisees to help them, to really share what their experience has been. And that becomes a culture of helping, of mentoring, of giving back, because it's about the whole system. And as the system grows, each individual franchisee grows. And last one, they are lifelong learners. This is a key trait of successful franchisees, is they're always thinking of what more can I do? What more can I learn? Can I be a better leader? Can I learn sales? Can I understand marketing? Can I learn about different businesses and more opportunities? That's why franchising is so sticky. That's why people get into the industry like myself and they never want to leave, because you can always go to a next level. You're surrounding yourself with entrepreneurial minded people who are always raising the bar, and they love being in an atmosphere and a culture like that. Do you need industry experience in the franchises that you're investigating? No. This is something that really surprises people, because they think that, okay, I'm looking at a pool cleaning business. Do I need to have any, pool cleaning experience? No. I'm looking at a tutoring franchise. Do I need to be a teacher? No. And why that's important is that the franchise companies have all of the training to train people on their way. A lot of times they actually don't want people who have experience in the industry. because they kind of have to break those habits and then teach them a new way of doing things. And that's the whole key to franchise systems, is follow the system. If you've ever looked at a franchise, you know that those are the three most important words in franchising, is follow the system. And they want to teach you from day one what their system is, because they know if you do it their way, you're going to be successful. So that's surprising for people. Now, you will be using your skill sets of what you've learned in your job and in your career and your experience, but the industry experience, it's actually better most of the time if you don't have industry experience. 4 key traits of successful franchisees. So going back to the 3 most important words, follow the system, right? So they follow a system. They like systems. They like that if somebody tells them, hey, if you do it this way, you're going to be successful, or you're going to have these outputs and outcomes, that's something that people thrive in and experience. They follow the system. Number 2, they execute the system. I call this, I can't do your push-ups for you. This is your business. You have to get out and execute it. You have to follow the plan, get out and make it happen, but you can't just think about it. You have to do it. Number 3, they build relationships with people. I don't care what franchise you show me, it's a people business, right? You need customers. You're going to get involved in your community. Most likely you're leading a team. You're building relationships all across the way, especially and also with the franchisor. So they are constantly looking, is this person good with people? Can they build relationships? That's a sweet spot for successful franchisees. Now, number 4 is the magic dust, resilience and grit. People who have been through hard things before, they know that they can keep going and they're going to be successful. There's something to say about continuing to have the discipline to keep going even when things get hard. Because newsflash, business ownership isn't all rainbows and unicorns out there, right? You're going to have hard, grueling days. That's part of the process. It's like building muscle. Some days when you go to the gym, they're not great days, but they're always moving you closer to your goal, right? Stop going to the gym. You're not going to get into your goals. The same is true with a franchise. You have to have that part of you that continues to move you forward, even when things get hard. And that also goes back to why it's important to have your why and your vision. Single unit versus multiple units. So this is a question I get a lot of times, is franchising, am I buying myself a job? You could. Or not. It can be either way. So a single unit operator is somebody who wants to be in control of their time, of their money. They want to be a business owner. I find that growth usually isn't as important to these people. They are very happy in their business, but they don't typically have the goals to grow. The multiple unit owner does. This person thinks about growth. They want to build a business. They want to build it through teams of people usually. And I find it's usually a math equation for them. So let's pretend I work with somebody and they say, Melissa, I want to make $300,000 a year. And they look at a franchise that makes $100,000 on average per year. They would look at that and say, okay, that makes sense. I need 3 of these to get to my goals of 300,000. So I'm going to reserve the 3 best territories in my market. And we call this in the industry growth insurance. They don't want to only be focusing on one, and then by chance everything around them sells out. Now they're landlocked and they can't get to their goals. So that is your multiple unit owner. Sometimes people are multiple brand owners, and I've had a few of these over the years where they want to start out with one, and in that brand may be owned by a parent company that has additional brands that they can grow into, and or they're able to go build their first franchise and then look at other options and into other brands as well. And I find sometimes that gives people a really nice diversified portfolio, because they're typically either different brands, or sometimes they're actually working on the same customer and they've already built trust with that customer. And I'll share a couple stories of people who have done that in a few slides from now. And then the third one is a regional developer. Now, this is definitely not right for everybody. And I've noticed that this form of franchising is starting to not be as common. It started back when with Massage Envy and Orange Theory, where somebody would go in and buy the rights to a really large area, and then they would have 2 roles with that franchise. They would help the franchisor to find franchise owners in their market, and then they would be the local support for those franchisees. how they would make money is they would share in the franchise fees and the royalties of the franchise owners in their market. And sometimes they would also open their own location there. So that, as I said, I don't see as much of this as I used to, but those can still, for the right person, does have a little bit of a longer runway in that business, but it can be a great longevity, and really something to build a lot of equity over time. Okay, franchisee success stories. So I just wanted to share a couple different people and different stories of people I've worked with. Now, I've been doing this 21 years, so I've had a lot of different people. And Luis is one of my favorite stories because Luis and we just hit it off. And he was actually going to keep his job when he was looking at the franchises, but they were going through some transitions. And I think he actually raised his hand and was like, I'll take a buyout and start my own business. And that worked out great for him because he was able to use some of that to build a business, to have a cushion as he built his business. I think he started with maybe 4 territories in a home services brand. And I'll never forget, Luis said to me, in my industry, when I was talking about grit and resilience and the ability to keep going, he said, we call that scrappy. We call that scrappy. We definitely have this role in our industry where people are successful. They keep going, and he has been their number one franchisee for probably a few years now, and he just landed a huge job with his franchise that is going to change his business completely. Number 2, Krista. So Krista is a fun story because she met me, or we met, I don't even remember how many years ago. It's over 10 years ago. She wanted to start her own spa, and she had this dream. And Krista is such a magnetic personality. She has a great pharmaceutical sales background. She was very, very successful, but burnt out. And it wasn't the time for her to start a spa. The investment was so high, and she was struggling with the banks, with the funding and everything. Even though she had her MBA, it just wasn't the first business for her. So we talked about a stepping stone business, meaning a business that she could get started at a lower investment and build it up, have a really steady income, build a lot of equity, either keep it or sell it. And through that, she'll get the experience, she'll get the funding, and all the things to build her successful spa. So she built her successful franchise in a few territories. She sold that for a great price. She actually started a second franchise with me. And because of that, she got industry experience, and now she has her own spa, Panacea Spa in Columbus, Ohio. And she's, my heart is full that she continued going and achieved all of her dreams, right? She knew her why and she stuck to it. Tim Keith. Tim and I worked together, and they started a business. He and his wife started a business. And were very successful, but one day they got an offer for their business, and he says it was an offer I couldn't refuse. And so he built a great business, and then he sold it. And at that stage, his wife was like, I really don't want to be involved. I think she wanted to go back and go back into the school system, but he still had this spark of being a business owner, but he just wanted something different. He didn't want employees. They have 2 homes. He wanted to go back and forth. And we found him a great franchise that gives him the flexibility, uses his skill sets, and he is doing really well. Great. Just such a great guy. Chris was somebody who had been very successful in his career. And believe it or not, he got COVID and was in the hospital for about 3 weeks. Literally almost died. He was so sick. And when he got out of the hospital, the way that his employer thanked him is they laid him off. And even as sick and home recovering, that lit a fire in him where he was like, never again. Never again am I going back and working for somebody that's how they reward and treat their employees. And so he built a business. He had just such a diverse background, and he built a great home services brand, became their top franchise owner, continues to grow, continues to help other franchisees. And I love his story because he used something that could really have broken somebody, and he used that as a fire to become incredibly successful. Okay, last one, Lori and Ron. I worked with them such a long time ago. And if you guys remember 07, 08, this was a tough time for people, and getting involved in a franchise was very scary. They both had great corporate careers. They wanted to keep them. They started a manager run business. They built it into a couple locations. And then over time, it gave them the opportunity to be able to retire early and live all of their retirement dreams. And that's what they're doing right now. And that shows that they had the courage to start a business when a lot of other people definitely weren't. And that gave them the opportunity to live their dreams and retire. Once again, my role is to help people research franchises. So I work individually with each person to understand the person, their skills, their goals, their budget, their comfort zones, and teach them a lot about franchising as well as how to research a franchise from A to Z. My role is to continue to help them and do the research so they know how to make an educated decision and only look at franchises that make sense for them in their market. My service is a free service because the franchise companies pay my fee if and when someone becomes an owner with them. So I am here to guide and educate people about franchising. So the first step would be for us to have a short conversation. I am going to clear some of my calendar on Tuesday, and I do give priority to anybody who's on my webinar today to get on my calendar for next week. So we would have a short conversation if that looks good. I typically have people fill out some more information, and then we have a deeper dive. We have a longer Zoom meeting to build your business model from A to Z so that you only look at franchises that are right for you. So I'll check availability of their market, we'll discuss the franchises, and then we'll get started researching them. I hold their hand through the entire process, through funding, through the research, what questions to ask, how to understand the numbers, where to get the information. I guide them through the entire process. So our next steps, as I said, would be to have a short meeting. I usually do that through Zoom so that I can explain a little more about what I do or answer any questions, but really to get to know you, what you're looking to accomplish. Why? Have you ever looked at franchises before? So just a really nice, easy meeting for us to find out, is this a path for you, whether now or in the future? All right, so let's see what kind of questions we have. Thank you for your questions. These are great. Do multiple unit owners always start as single unit owners, or can you start with multiple franchises or locations at once? So yes, it can be either way. Now, sometimes people do. They start with a single unit, and then over time they realize, I want to expand this. I love this business, and they're able to buy territories near them to expand into the next location. The risk of that is sometimes territories around you will sell out, and then people are not able to grow. So sometimes people, when they're looking for that, once again, growth insurance, and they know how many locations they need based on the numbers to get to their goals, they reserve those up front. But yes, it can be either way. Are there any groups or types of people that franchising is especially aligned? Let's see here. It says veterans or multi-generational families. Yes and yes. So, in all of my years of franchising, I've noticed that people don't come from a specific background or education or anything. I've worked with all different types of people, but yes, there's definite an affinity for veterans in franchising. They know how to follow systems and processes, discipline, structure. These are all things that are taught in the military, and franchise companies want to say thank you to veterans. So they also, majority of them give discounts on their franchise fees through the Vet Fran program. And, yes, I am finding a lot of people that it's all about building a family legacy right now. So I've had, dads and sons and mothers and daughters and vice versa. Sometimes people just want to teach their kids the value of hard work through their franchise, or that there's other paths, right? That it's not just going and getting a job and working there forever and retiring. It is that there's multiple ways out there, but definitely I've seen a trend of leaving a legacy, a family legacy. That tends to be becoming very important. And you'll talk to franchisees who, will hand it down to their children over time. So definitely the ability to build a legacy is very strong. Any other questions? Feel free to put them in the chat. We're just about done here. You can click on the QR code to set up time with me, or feel free to reach out. You have my email. I would love to find some time to meet you and answer any questions that we didn't get done today. But I want to thank you guys so much for your time, and I hope you learned a lot today.